officers.
Good morning, Pump Bud.
Killer up.
Yeah, but make it snappy. We're in the middle of a zombie holocaust.
Okie dokie. 1 tank of extra leaded coming right up.
I'm not sure I have enough cash to cover
Oh, never you mind, sir. It's on the house.
that. Oh, there's no need for that.
Oh, it's my pleasure, officers. My pleasure. Hey, want me to look under the hood?
No! I need to use the restroom.
Oh, it's round the back.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll try to keep from eloping with the car.
Boy, you know, it's a good thing you stopped by, officer. There's been a bit of lawlessness this afternoon.
Tell me.
Strangest thing, this gentleman, a very ill one by the look of it.
Wait a minute. Green skin, festering wound in his guts, ugly tie.
I'm never gonna get used to seeing that. Huh. Ain't that a kick in the head?
In my review for Freedom Fighters, I mentioned that it was a pain in the ass to build up an army per level. You were limited to the number of soldiers in your squad based on your charisma and had to work towards building a bigger army. It's a great gameplay conceit that synergized with the story of building up a resistance to fight the enemy, and when you got a big enough squad, it felt good having a team back you up. But sometimes, I just want to go apeshit and have a murder horde ready at my beck and call. I had hoped that I could get that in Stubbs a Zombie in Rebel Without a Pulse. And I did. Sometimes. But while this game has a lot of heart, like any typical zombie, it's in dire need of some brains.
My brain!
Stubbs a Zombie is a 2005 action-adventure game featuring the titular Stubbs and his antics in the futuristic city of Punch Bowl. This game is riding on the same vibe as BioShock and Fallout. Actually, its sense of humor is a lot more juvenile, which automatically makes it better than BioShock or Fallout in that department.
People can't stop talking about it, and why should they? Punch Bowl is a model of good old American ingenuity. Much of it developed by famed scientist Dr. Herman Y., now a naturalized American citizen working for the good guys.
Unfortunately, that's the one objectively positive thing I can say about Stubbs. I really wanted to like this game, and I like parts of it. But there are some serious gameplay issues that prevent me from wholeheartedly recommending the game like I could with Freedom Fighters. Let's start with the basic controls. As you'd expect from a zombie game, Stubbs shambles along at a steady plod. There's no sprint button to change his speed. However, there are moments where he gets a sudden burst of energy and propels himself at a slightly faster plod. I have no idea what triggers his burst. Imagine a speed boost from Devil May Cry 4 or 5, but a lot more unreliable. Stubbs has a basic 3-hit combo. When you soften an enemy up, you can use the action button to feed on him and make a new friend. The action button is one of the many little problems in Stubbs' design that build upon themselves to create serious issues down the line. Along with feeding on victims, the action button can be used to push any friends who get in Stubbs' path. You can also break down barricades with the action button. You can also call friends over to Stubbs with a whistle using the action button. Here's the thing about the whistle. Just like the speed boost, it's inconsistent. The game tells you that you have to look at any nearby friends and then use the button. But you have to wait for the prompt to appear on screen before pressing the button. Otherwise, Stubbs does this command grab whip animation to no one in particular. Even if you're looking at a particular group of friends, if the game doesn't want you to have company, then it's not happening. The first zombie power that Stubbs gets at the start of the game is a fart that stuns nearby enemies. You want to save that attack until you're surrounded by a crowd to make the most out of that power. The second zombie power is the gut grenade. Stubbs has an exposed chest cavity where it can pull out one of his organs to use as a grenade. You can either trigger it remotely by pressing the grenade button again, or leave it as a time bomb. Along with throwing his organs, Stubbs can also throw out his hand as a spider drone of sorts. This is a cool power, but it has some busted controls. It can climb onto any surface, but try not to lose your lunch when the camera attempts to orient itself and fucks up your sense of up and down. You can latch onto any enemy with an exposed head and control them. This power is best used on enemies equipped with ranged weapons to take out several long-distance targets, but once the enemy recognizes that someone has been controlled, they'll focus all of their aggro on that target. It's the kind of aggro that makes the enemies seem like they're all psychically linked together. The fourth zombie power is the head roll. Stubbs can remove his head and roll it along the ground. It's a combination of the hand and gut grenade, as when you approach your desired target, you can detonate the head. These powers each have a function, but they're all fundamentally flawed because of input delay. I've mashed the gut grenade button, and sometimes the input doesn't register until it does. This happens with all of the powers. The other problem with the powers is that you can only restock them by feeding off of victims. This doesn't sound like it should be a problem, and for most of the early game, it isn't. But by the second chapter of the game, I started noticing difficulty spikes that throw off the game's pacing. There is an early boss enemy that's incredibly beefy and has a chainsaw attack that will decimate Stubbs if you give him the opportunity. I had no idea what the game wanted me to do. There was a swarm of zombies in that part of the arena that distracted the boss, which allowed me to throw out some free hits. But it took forever to weaken that boss where I could injure him and then eventually kill him. The boss's health pool is so large that I literally could not tell if what I was doing was the intended method. This is the core issue of Stubbs. Everything lasts far longer than it should. Everything. Every set piece, every boss fight. And it doesn't help that Stubbs moves as slowly as he does. The level design is deceptively linear. The environments are large and sprawling, and while I usually appreciate that size of a space to play around, there's a whole lot of nothing in these stages. The level design is so sprawling that the game will have to place waypoints to tell you where to go. The environment art looks good for the setting, and it really fits that cheesy tone of the 50s to 60s era of the Jet Age. The characters are all stock tropes taken to comedic extremes. They feel like Dead Rising psychopaths at times. There are some great moments, like how the farm level basically has tall grass stealth in the form of the crop beds. There's a killdozer in that level that lets you impale all of the enemies and watch them writhe in pain as they're mounted onto one of the pitchforks. The vehicles are all very floaty, and when a friend told me that one of the Bungie developers worked on Stubbs, it made a lot of sense. When you have a good enough swarm of zombies with you, it feels nice to just hit the town. But these moments are few and far between. And the lack of any real control with the zombies sucks when there was potential to direct a horde to attack one part of the map, while Stubbs could flank the enemy and make more friends along the way. By far, the worst thing that the game does is require you to take on enemies who can only be attacked by ranged weapons. This means that you have to control an enemy, and then make sure you take out the target before the minion or Stubbs dies, which means you're managing 2 health bars. There's a set piece where you need to use 4 friends to power up some device to destroy a dam, but every now and then a swarm of enemies spawn in and shoot down your friends. So I had to take out most of the enemies, make sure enough were alive to convert them, and then wrangle them over to the devices to complete the circuits. And then the game brings in these jetpack assholes that I can only kill with controlled enemies. It's the worst set piece in the entire game. Now, Stubbs can piss into the dam and infect the rest of Punch Bowl.
Activate force field! Now that I have captured the Alpha Zombie, I'm on the verge of the greatest scientific breakthrough in human history. I have been studying your tissue samples. Your reanimation is the result of a catalytic reaction with the grass fertilizer I developed for Punch Bowl. I can see this is wasted on you. No matter. Soon you will be on the slab providing raw material for my greatest experiment.
This game has a boss fight that is exactly the same as the Dr. Wily fight I had to do in Infernal. This guy is an asshole because his laser will just melt Stubbs. You have to run around and flip all these switches to disable his shield, and then damage him with gut grenades.
I hope you like the taste of formaldehyde, because you're going to be swimming in it!
Hey, what's a pup butt gotta do to get a little action around here?
By the end of the game, you're facing the army, and they're one of the worst enemy types. Some soldiers are wearing helmets, so you can't feed off of them and waste an animation to tear an arm off while absorbing enemy fire. This section of the game has stages that look almost like Freedom Fighters, but without the open-endedness of that level design. There were parts of the game that should have let you flank the enemy, but no, you've got to charge through the minefield with a sniper overlooking the path and deal with a squad of infantry on the ground level. The one consolation to these segments is that you can pilot a tank, but you gotta deal with soldiers armed with rockets and barbershop quartet dudes with futuristic laser mortars. I was stuck in this one part of the map because there's a tank patrolling the area, and I couldn't tell where the level wanted me to go. The far end of the map is a dead end, and the door that looks like progress isn't functioning. I had to look up a walkthrough. Turns out I had to fart next to the tank, force the enemy out, hijack the tank, kill all of the enemies that now spawned in because entering the tank triggered the event, and then run to the now working door. This game likes to spawn enemies out of monster closets, and sometimes they'll appear behind you. Very uncool.
Some folks go for cantaloupe.
Is everything satisfactory, Miss Monday?
Yes, Sonny.
Sure you don't need anything? A cold drink?
No.
Cigarette?
No.
Foot massage?
Oh, I'm... what?
No, nothing. Never mind.
You're a nice man, Mr. Skegness, but don't you have better things to do than make passes at your employer's mother?
I'm just doing my job, Miss Monday. Andrew asked me to look after you, and I'm going to make sure nothing unseemly happens on this wonderful,
Sonny.
fabulous,
Sonny.
huge
Eyes up here.
day.
The barbershop quartet enemies are the beefiest enemy types in the game. I don't like that. I can understand civilians being weaker than, say, a soldier, because a soldier has military training and should have a stronger constitution than an average Joe. But these singing fops should not take 20 hits to drop when they're already equipped with devastating future weapons.
I've got it all worked out, dead man. Once I kill you, Maggie's heart will be mine. Oh, broads love it when you kill for them. Let's end this. Mono a mono, just you and me.
And me.
And me! And me!
I do appreciate how this rival character, who only had 2 scenes, looks like he'd be another boss, but I can just fart next to him and take him down like any other enemy. The final boss took me a while to figure out what to do. I had to destroy the shields and make use of the ads to restock my powers. This fight was so drawn out because the final boss uses these chaser lasers that will track you forever. And if he decides to use a super laser on you, that's it, you're pretty much fucked. This game is short, but with all of the resetting and shitty checkpointing of the game, it feels longer than it should. I hate saying that because there's a lot of good ideas in this game. I don't know if it's a byproduct of having to build a port for the Xbox as well as PC, but the sprawling environments invite for more opportunities to have a huge zombie horde. The redneck and army zombies should have had the ability to use firearms, so subs could direct their attacks at ranged enemies. Enemies really shouldn't be able to detect Stubbs' hand, or at least they should react more believably when they're alerted instead of instant telekinesis, like they're connected to SOP. There shouldn't be encounters that require range attacks when you as a character cannot directly use a gun to fire on those enemies. And the tank's cannon should be more accurate than it is, and have machine guns as an alternate fire method to take out these flying bastards. Did I even mention the music in this game?
I see a zombie! You cannibal! Ow! 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 Zombie! Over there!
It's fantastic. It's a mix of unique tracks for the game, as well as alt covers of 50s doo-wop that I can't show without setting off YouTube's algorithms. Deathcap for Cutie did a cover of Earth Angel, which is my favorite song of that time, and I'll link it to this video.
I'm glad you came directly to my office. It's much more convenient if I kill you. You're about to learn you can't escape the law. I told you I would dance in your grave, and I meant it.
There's a dance-off minigame that makes use of these tracks and adds a dance mix beat to them. This minigame sucks, and if you fail enough times, the game will let you skip it. I was too stubborn to hold that L, so I had to use my keyboard to get the timing right, as my control sticks had too much delay. If all of these fundamental issues weren't enough, the game itself is a pain in the ass to run on modern machines. I had to install another program to monitor my Nvidia card, as well as install a widescreen patch to get the game in a playable state. So yeah, Stubbs isn't an overlooked classic. It's an interesting title and worth looking at, if only through long plays on YouTube. It's on my abandonware, but you really do have to look at the comments on that page to get the instructions to run the game on Windows 10, as well as install the widescreen patch. I'm glad I got to play it, as it's always been a title I've been interested in, but it's definitely hard to love. There's potential for a sequel here, but Aspyr looks like it's more focused on porting old games to modern consoles. Maybe someone else can pick up where they left off and make the next great American zombie simulator. Hopefully the controls won't suck when that happens.
I've never been to Paris, I've never been to Rome. The outside world's not what I'm thinking of. I'm happy just to stay in my new futuristic home. 'Cause Punch Bowl's where I want to fall in love.